Hello, I'm Julia Bushkova, and today we're continuing our very informative sessions with Andra Sterzik, the certified hand specialist and occupational therapist. Another question to Andra. In your opinion, what could be the cause of extra tension in musicians' hands? And of course, at this point, I'm talking about violins or maybe violas, somebody who plays like this. So in my pedagogical expertise viewpoint, I noticed that it happened definitely when somebody learns a piece of music that is too hard for them, too difficult for their technical level. And also if they have to learn something too fast. Let's say, teacher pushes them, oh, you have to learn by this date, and it's just, again, too hard, too fast. So that definitely causes extra tension. But over the years, I also found that there are other causes which I cannot pinpoint exactly. Somebody who would have, for instance, a situation with intonation, playing in tune, when they would play with a relaxed hand, as we ask them to play with really relaxed hand, and intonation just, it's very unstable. They would put a finger in one place and then slightly in the other place, of course, with that it results in a completely different note, or note is out of tune. And if sometimes they would say just like concentrate, and they will do a little bit of extra maybe tension or something, and the finger goes just in the right place, So as an educator, as a pedagogue, I know that in the long run it's probably not as good, but I'm not sure. Would it be something that we need to address, or why does it happen altogether? Why this little tension sometimes helps, let's say, with precision?
Okay, so there's a interesting concept in the body called proprioception, and proprioception is a sense that your body has. So people sometimes talk about a fifth sense or sixth sense or something like that. So proprioception is your sense of where your body is in space. So that means that if I have good proprioception and someone says, put your hand here, and I do that, and then they say, okay, now do it again, but do it with your eyes closed. And if I do it with my eyes closed, but suddenly my hand is way up here, well, I don't really have a good sense of where my body is in space, because without my vision, I should be able to recreate that motion based on how it feels. So we do a lot of proprioceptive training with our patients after injuries, especially because the less something gets used, the less proprioception that you have. So you have receptors in your body and you have receptors in your ligaments that provide feedback to your brain to say motion is happening. For example, in the ligaments, they have a lot of collagen, but not a lot of elasticity, because their job is to provide stability to the bones. But they have a reflex that when emotion begins to happen in them, when it reaches a certain point, it sends a signal to the brain, this is getting to be too heavy. I need you to let the muscles kick in and make this more stable. This is kind of the feeling that you get whenever you're picking up something heavy and you're like, I'm going to drop this. I can't sustain this. And your body says, let go, and you let go, because you know you're going to hurt yourself if you continue. That is your proprioceptive sense in your ligaments firing off. So you can actually increase your proprioceptive awareness of your body by doing certain things. The number one thing is just challenging the system. You talked about an additional touch, like if the teacher touches you in a certain way, you're giving your brain more feedback about where the body part is in space and what it feels like for it to kick in. A lot of times if I have a patient who has a muscle that has not been used in a long time, and we're trying to retrain that muscle, I'll provide tapping, or I'll squeeze, or I'll press against them firmly so that they're getting more input, and then that cycle goes to the brain and it kind of cements what that feeling is like.
Wow, that explains actually why the best teachers, especially with younger students, the best teachers always touch. I mean, they will come, or I do the same even with older people, but yeah, you will come and you will do something like this. That is why. That really helps. Well, go ahead, tell us some more.
So if I have a person who is injured, or I notice that they have low tone, which means they don't react quickly, or if they're hypermobile and they have what we call loosey-goosey joints, so the ligaments are not really providing them an accurate sense of what's safe and what's not safe, and I want to retrain them how to live and function and move in safe patterns, then I have to do proprioceptive training with them. And so a lot of that looks like eyes open, eyes closed, mimicking patterns. So I want to put your hand in this position, look at it, think about how it feels, now close your eyes and try and do that again for me. And we do that until they can get that motion correct a certain amount of time. And then we move on to more challenging things. And it's usually motion that is faster, or involves vibration, or involves motion at a very fine level. So even things like gyroscopes, or I use water pipes. So I'll take a pipe and I'll put water in it, and then it's not quite full, so when you hold it, it has a tendency to rock from side to side, and I'll have them try and maintain that posture, and then when it gets to where they can manage and keep it level, then we start to do it with their eyes closed, because they need to know what that feeling is so that they don't have to think about it in the future. If you feel what's right, and you feel what's stable, and you know that, then when you start to move your body in certain patterns, like whether you're playing an instrument, you don't even have to think about it. It's just your knowledge feels right. I'm in the right space. I'm moving in the correct way, and it becomes subconscious.
So would it explain then, from proprioception point of view, that that's why some people to keep the bow parallel to the bridge, as we call it, have to actually look at it in order to do it. And some can easily do it without looking, and the others, the first type, actually won't be able to, so the bow will start moving away. Is that the proprioception case?
Yes.
Okay.
So they don't have a good awareness of what it feels like, and so they have to use their eyes as a visual feedback loop of, am I moving in the correct pattern to make the correct sound?
So that's a very good piece of knowledge, actually. How can we train this? I mean, is there anything more specific maybe that would be, that is a big issue, the bow sliding off the, what we call straight line or very parallel to the bridge, is a huge issue for all violinists, violists, anybody who holds the instrument, in that position. So do you think there will be any specific exercise we could do to develop it, or would it be more a visualization?
Well, visualization can definitely help. I would think that if you were going to practice, what you would need to do is break it down to a very small level. Go back to the very beginning and work on
like placing the bow, maybe,
placing the bow,
then looking, and then not looking,
and then picking one note, and then practicing that one note with your eyes, and then trying to practice that one note without using your eyes, and don't move on to the next one until you've mastered the first one, and then begin to play longer passages and see if you can maintain that without the visual loop.
And so for the left hand, it would be also similar with this little extra tension, or without it, it's more of just of visualizing and doing it looking and then not looking.
Sometimes I'll take away a person's instrument and have them practice it without the instrument before we practice with the instrument. Because if they're trying to learn a particular hand posture, when you think about being at the nut of the instrument, if they're trying to learn a particular hand posture, I will have them practice that hand posture without the instrument, and then
sort of like this,
right? And then even mimicking it, visualizing it while they don't have the instrument, and then moving on to actually having the instrument with them to practice.
So in a way, that's what I find also a lot of times. I will ask my students, okay, so just do this motion, and then they will do something like that. So that means that they actually don't have the good proprioception of how that motion even is in space. Okay. Well, that has been immensely helpful. Thank you so much. And I hope you all learned a great deal from this session. Again, I would thank you, Andra Sterzik, the certified hand specialist and occupational therapist, for all her wisdom and all her knowledge. And if you haven't subscribed, please do so right now. And I will see you all later.